Hi Instas, welcome back to the channel, and this is going to be a quick one on the fast upcoming full moon in Gemini. Happy Sag season, by the way, and do remember, if you may have forgotten, that I do free readings for Sagittarius Sun and Sagittarius Rising if you book with me during Sagittarius season. You can get in touch with the details below. So we've got this full moon in Gemini, and actually as I record this, I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I am learning to drive at the moment. It's my first time ever to learn to drive, and I'm learning to drive in a foreign country, in a foreign language. And I mentioned before that I failed the first test. That was during the Mercury retrograde, of course, with Mercury also conjunct Mars on the day of the test in was it Scorpio or Sagittarius? I don't remember now, but anyway, I think in Sagittarius. But yeah, I failed that day, but then today I went again, and there were quite a lot of like weird things that happened. Like two students behind me, they had like an accident. They were driving trucks and they had a bit of a collision, and that was like right behind me. It wasn't my fault, by the way. And you know, just some things like miscommunications and disorganization, and the machine inside the car today. So it's a course test. I feel it's very funny that we're talking about this as we're about to talk about the full moon in Gemini, because Gemini is the ruler of twos, things that come in pairs, your hands, your feet. But anyway, the driving test for this course is like, you do it with a teacher first in the car on the site, and then you do a few laps, you practice, and then they abandon you and you're on your own. It's just you and in my case, the Korean speaking machine, and you have like a certain amount of time to do a certain sequence of tasks. And of course today it was snowing, so it was, to my knowledge, to my witnessing, this is the first snow we've had here where I live in Korea of the year. So that was nice, but also made me a bit nervous when I booked for today. Obviously I didn't know it was going to snow, and I actually, as I was finishing work, I was this close to just texting the academy and being like, can we reschedule, because I don't like the look of these flurries of snow on my test day. And I didn't manage to actually message that to them, because they messaged me first and they were like, this is the pickup time, we're going to be here at this time. So it was like a reminder text that they sent me, and that kind of just made me not cancel in the end. I was just like, you know what, let me just go and do it. You know, I'm sure if the weather's that bad, they'll cancel it anyway, kind of thing. So I got there and I did it, and I did it. So you're not really supposed to go over 10 minutes in this course test, and I did it, I think, in like 7 or 8. So I'm very proud of myself, because you know, I've had for many years a fear and an aversion to cars and driving, and obviously this is just the first step for me. But yeah, I'm happy that I got through it and passed finally. So here we are anyway, as we get very close to the full moon in Gemini, and we will have this full moon at 22 degrees. Sorry. What am I saying? We have the host at 22 degrees. That's Mercury. So Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is hosting this full moon in Gemini. And Mercury is 22 degrees of Scorpio at the time of the full moon. And we have this host trining Jupiter retrograde in Cancer and trining Saturn in Pisces. Saturn is now direct, by the way, if you didn't know. But this is a continuation, actually, of this these long-running activations of a grand water trine. That's when 3 planets, one in each of the water signs, at the same time. This has been going on for a while, but anyway, now it is Mercury with Jupiter and Saturn making that grand trine. So I have things for us and this full moon. By the way, if you don't know much about full moons, you want to know more, I made a video years ago about full moons versus new moons. I go much more in depth there. You can check that out here on my channel if you want. But to be very, very brief, full moons are usually, astrologically speaking, moments of culmination, completion, release sometimes, the crazies sometimes. Actually, as I was starting my test today, at the very starting point of the course, there's like this little hill that you have to do a couple things on, and right in front of me was the full moon. It's not the perfect full moon yet, but it was pretty, she was pretty round and bright, peeking in and out of the clouds, and with the snowflakes as well all around. It's quite a beautiful omen, I think. But anyway, I have for all of us and this collective around this full moon in Gemini, which is basically from Friday and into this weekend. I think there's going to be a lot of hangover energy across the next 3-4 days, but real reminiscing of the good times for a lot of people. We do have, remember, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, making that trine to the host of this full moon, and Jupiter is the ruler of trines, so I personally feel that's even more significant. It's more of an amplification of this dynamic. Things, people can be more emotional or extra emotional, and even like things, that's my notes by the way, popping up there, woohoo. Things can like feel out of nowhere. I'm talking about like welling up of things, full moons. It's very typical for full moons. This welling up of emotions or a feeling seemingly coming out of nowhere. But specifically here, there's this sense also of it like calming down or things being fine in the end. The moon, before she has her full moon in Gemini, she will have left, she's right now in Taurus, which is her exaltation sign. It's her Disneyland sign. So she's leaving Taurus and enters Gemini. But before she enters Gemini, she also does what I call a kiss. She kisses Uranus, who is also in Taurus and retrograde. So that's going to give a certain jolt or excitement, even for some people, like a blast from the past. Or it can give a lot of people, I think, this culmination of something they really didn't expect they would get. It could be like a gift that kind of falls from the sky, so to speak. And anyway, we have the moon in Mercury sign Gemini, which is a peregrine or neutral sign for the moon. And then after that, so after the official full moon, what does the moon do? She goes into Cancer, which is the domicile or the home sign, where she likes to be, because she rules Cancer. So it's a very nice, I think, sort of front, middle and back transition, or like slice of time around this full moon in Gemini. There could also be, for some people, communications from a soulmate from the past, however you want to define soulmate, or very significant person from the past. And there is also an unleashing of how you've been feeling. So I would say to take care on that note, because classically full moons can be about like retaliation or lashing out And with that host of the moon in Scorpio, I feel like for some people it could be one of those reactionary kind of full moons, especially in Sagittarius season as well, where you kind of say something you can't take back, or we say too much, or yeah, we just react instead of respond. And also this is a very like temperance kind of test, temperance as in the tarot. If you've seen the temperance in the tarot, it's often this kind of alchemist balancing water in 2 cups or chalices, or having 1 foot in the water, 1 on the land. This is fire energy, water energy, and also oppositional air. These things are very prominent right now around this full moon, so it could be a test of temperance for many of us. Also, sneak attacks, what I would call dick moves, kind of miserable, woe is me kind of conversations as well. Sagittarius opposes Gemini, so sometimes there can be that conflict of, I just want to focus on the positive, but there's this person who just like can never seem to see the positive, or always has something like devil's advocate-y to say, you know. It can be a bit like that around this full moon. And also though, for some, this is like rose-colored glasses getting like shattered by words, or it could be a message or an email or something that comes in that might shatter our expectation or understanding of something. But for some people it will be more like it just helps us set some of the vision into something more logical or reasonable. That introduction again of this oppositional air energy, it can bring a little bit more sense to all this fire and water. And gaslighting as well will be, I think, something that a lot of people will have highlighted. I think I mentioned this in my last video on Sagittarius season, how this full moon in Gemini can be one of those like game playing, mind games type of thing. But it's like not just about, and I've mentioned this before many times, but like it's not taking the bait. That's the thing. Don't take the bait if you are dealing with a gaslighter, but behave, or believe rather, that you are strong enough to carry on as you promised to yourself. You're not weak. Or even if you were at first afraid of something or someone, you can find that other half of you that calls back your strength and calls you back to yourself. This is like the horse and the snake in Chinese astrologies. The horse will be the next year in Chinese astrology. We're currently in the snake year. But it's very interesting because in lots of tellings of the horse and the snake, either the horse was ahead of the snake, or they were like neck and neck, or they were converging. But the horse saw the snake and got spooked. And that's why in the zodiacal order, the snake comes first. And also in many tellings, it's not that the snake was like attacking or trying to scare or bite the horse at all. The snake was just like doing its own thing, going about its business. But anyway, these two archetypes, these animals, they have a very interesting spiritual relationship, I think. And I've mentioned before on my channel how snake like poison and antidotes, that is often tested on horses, because there's this virility to horses, but there's also this like beauty about horses that people walk all over, or this naivety even that people have, or this sense of horses that they can just be taken for a ride type of thing. But there's like a lot more strength than may come to mind. Anyway, realizing also what the trick to something was, or what it is, like hacks and tricks, I think can be relevant here, because this is again a full moon, which can be these aha kind of moments of realization, or like the completion of a thought process as well, especially with Gemini being an air sign. There can just be like a knack, something that is figured out, and celebrations as well, and culminations in the like emotional depth of a friendship or of a partnership. And this is kind of like real committed love or partnership that can be formed. It's like two people coming together. And I have here, actually, you can see the Lovers card. This is from Kim Kranz's The Wild Unknown. And you see these two birds. They're flying in the same direction, but not necessarily the same. They don't look like they're on the same level, but they're going the same direction. So very classical Gemini or Lovers card stuff coming through here of maybe not in this case being on the same page. It's more like coming together finally, after perhaps some friction or some misunderstandings. It's also a great weekend, I want to say, for people to go and see some comedy, like maybe some stand-up comedy or like spoken word, anything that makes you feel good or nostalgic even, or like sentimental. Maybe you want to see a comedian from your roots, or you go on YouTube and you watch someone funny, or you watch something funny from a while ago that stirs up some of this nostalgia, and maybe it just helps soothe you around some of the crazier or more erratic or even confrontational energy that can be had around this full moon. There's also stuff, like really good stuff, I think, for this full moon in Gemini pertaining to art or like design, lyricism, poetry, singing, lots of things that can be like reveled in. Or it could be for some that like a piece of art, something is being completed, or something fulfills a desire as well, like something someone wanted to master something even, and that is happening, and there's like a happiness around that. And also this is finally seeing someone's good side around this full moon, or like achieving a point in relationships where you are both working together. So again, it's not necessarily like being on the same page, but more like working together, or like progress or momentum is finally being made in a relationship. Or there's like mutual strength now being had, or mutual trust is solidifying. We've got this scorpionic energy where the host of this full moon is, and it's kind of like, if you, so I have to say again, going back to my driving test today, like I was getting so stressed out with the instructor just like saying no, like chastising me a lot, and it was stressing me the feck out, and also there were so many distractions. I don't know if they do these distractions on purpose to try to like create like an artificial replication of what it's like to actually drive. But like the machine, when we were doing the laps around the course, the machine itself like had some sound malfunction, and he was like trying to fiddle with that, and that was putting me on edge. And then like he would be muttering about something or someone else that he's not impressed with, and I was just like, what is going on? But I pushed through. I wanted at one point to just like say some unsavory words to him, but I didn't, obviously. But like sometimes it's like that, I think, in relationships, and especially like one-on-one relationships, whether it's like a student, a teacher, or you are like in a romantic situation, or I don't know, business customer, whatever it is, friendship even. I think sometimes we have to take a little bit of like heat, or a little bit of like that scorpionic, oh god, what is that film called? Let me know in the comments if you know, but it's that film about the boy who gets taught drumming, and his teacher is like quite, I would say, quite a violent teacher. Um, but in the end, that is what pushes the kid through to achieving something very exceptional with the subject. It's kind of like that, you know. Sometimes I think this film, especially in the acquisition of knowledge or a skill, or like mentally understanding one another or mentally connecting for some culmination or some completion. Anyway, that is what I have to say on this full moon in Gemini. I hope you have a lovely weekend, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye bye.